The night smelled like rust and rain when she said it. "You'll never be enough for me, Aaron." I stared at her, suitcase in hand, eyes colder than I'd ever seen. "Lisa, what does that even mean?" I asked. "We've been through worse than this." She zipped her bag without looking up. "Through worse? Aaron, you can't even pay the rent. You keep talking about dreams that never happen." "I'm tired," I stepped closer. "Tired of me or tired of struggling?" She stopped. Her silence was louder than thunder. "Both," she said finally. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because if I didn't, I'd break. "So that's it? After everything? You walk away because I'm not rich?" She turned, her voice sharp. "Don't twist it. I need stability. I need someone who doesn't drag me down. Someone like who? Him?" I asked. "That guy with the BMW?" Her lips trembled. "At least he knows what he wants." "What I want is you, Lisa," I said quietly. "I thought that meant something." "It did," she whispered. "But love doesn't pay bills." I swallowed hard. The sound of rain filled the silence between us. "And what about promises? What about the nights you said you'd never leave?" She looked down. "I meant it then. People change." "Not people," I said. "You!" She grabbed the handle of her suitcase and walked to the door. My throat burned. "You really think you'll find happiness with him?" She didn't answer. She just opened the door and stood there for a moment, her silhouette framed by the dim hallway light. "I hope someday you understand," she said. "I can't love someone who's stuck." The door shut. Just like that, I stood there listening to the rain, wondering if I should chase her. My feet didn't move. My hands trembled. My heart didn't believe what my eyes saw. I poured a drink, cheap whiskey, half water, and sat on the couch. Her perfume still lingered in the room. Every corner of the apartment screamed her name. Hours passed before I heard the knock. It was Mark. "You look like hell," he said, stepping in. I laughed bitterly. "Feels about right." He looked at the half-empty bottle. "She's gone, huh?" "Yeah," I muttered. Said I wasn't enough. "Guess she finally meant it." Mark shook his head. "Lisa never deserved you, man." I stared at the floor. "You don't mean that." "I do," he said. "You gave her everything you could. You were planning your future, not chasing handouts. She wanted shortcuts. You're better off." "Better off?" I said, choking on the words. "I can't even sleep without hearing her voice." He sat beside me. "Then hear it. Hear it until it stops hurting. But don't let her words define you." I looked at him, desperate. "How do you stop caring?" "You don't," he said. "You outgrow the pain. One day, it won't control you." I wanted to believe him, but the emptiness inside me was too heavy. "She picked him because he had money," I said. "That's what I was worth to her, a poor man's mistake." Mark sighed. "Then prove her wrong. Not for her, but for you." "I don't care about proving anything," I lied. "I just want her back." He leaned forward. "You think you do. But when the dust settles, you'll realize she did you a favor." I clenched my jaw. "She was my everything, and that's the problem," he said. "No one should be your everything except yourself." The clock ticked between us. I hated that he was right. I hated that love had turned into humiliation. Mark stood. "I'll check on you tomorrow, all right? Don't drown in this." When he left, the silence grew louder. I walked to the window and watched the streetlights blur through the rain. Somewhere out there, Lisa was probably laughing with him, maybe sipping wine in a warm apartment that wasn't falling apart. I whispered to no one, "You'll regret this someday." The city didn't answer. Only thunder. Days passed in a haze. I missed rent. My boss called to say I was fired. "Too many absences," he said. I didn't argue. What was the point? Mark dropped by again. "You need to move, man. Sitting in this mess won't change anything." I rubbed my face. "I don't know how to start again." "You start small," he said. "One step, one job, one reason to wake up." I stared at him. "And if I don't have a reason?" "Then make one," he said firmly. "Make it her if you have to. Use the pain until it burns out." Something in me shifted. Maybe it was anger. Maybe pride. I nodded slowly. "You're right, for once," he said, smiling faintly. I managed a weak grin. "Yeah, for once." He clapped my shoulder. "Good, now shower. Eat something. And stop drinking that poison." When he left, I looked around the apartment again. Every trace of her, the framed photo, the perfume bottle, the half-finished mug, mocked me. I gathered them into a box, carried it to the dumpster, and dropped it in. The sound echoed in the alley. For the first time in days, I breathed. The air was sharp, clean. The rain had stopped. "I'll never be that powerless again," I whispered. And I meant it. I sat on a wet park bench, rain soaking through my jacket, staring at nothing. My hands trembled and every breath felt heavy. Mark appeared from nowhere, shaking his umbrella, looking like he'd just come from some normal, warm life I couldn't touch. "You can't let her be the reason you die," he said, his voice low but firm. I laughed bitterly. "Die? Really, Mark? For her? For her?" "No, for yourself," he snapped. "You've been staring at the ground for days like some broken statue. That's not living." "I don't have anything left," I muttered. "Job gone, apartment gone, even my pride's gone. And she's out there, smiling, moving on." Mark sat beside me. "Aaron, I know it hurts, but drowning in it won't fix a thing. I can't just forget her," I said, voice shaking. "I can't pretend it didn't happen. She walked away like I was nothing." "Good," Mark said sharply. "Don't forget. Don't pretend. Let it fuel you." "Fuel me?" I asked, incredulous. "What do you mean?" "You want to get back at her?" he said. "Fine, but not by stealing her back. Show her what she threw away. Show yourself what you're capable of." I stared at the wet pavement, the words sinking slowly. Could I even do that? Could I rise from this? The next morning, I found myself standing in front of Mr. Chen's garage. The sign was old, the paint peeling, but something about it felt honest. I pushed the door open. "Can I help you?" a gruff voice asked. I need work," I said quietly. "Work, huh?" he said, eyeing me up and down. "You look like you've been in a fight with life and lost." "Something like that," I admitted. "Good," he said. "Then you've got the right attitude. You start tomorrow." 8 a.m. sharp, I nodded. "Thank you, sir." The first night I slept in the storage room behind the garage, cold and cramped, I thought about Lisa's words. "You'll never be enough." I whispered them to myself over and over, letting them burn. "Why do you stay here?" Mark asked when he came by that evening. "Because I have to," I said. I don't know. I need to be better. I can't let her define me anymore." "You're serious," he said, looking me in the eyes. "This isn't a phase?" I shook my head. "No phase. I'm done being helpless. I promised myself I'd come back, not for her, but for me, to prove I'm worth more than her rejection." Mark smiled faintly. "Good. That's the fire I wanted to see." Days turned into nights, nights into early mornings. I worked double shifts, slept on the cold floor, and counted every penny. Mr. Chen was tough, relentless, but fair. "Stop slacking, Aaron," he barked one day when I missed a bolt. "This isn't charity. You want to succeed? You earn it." "Yes, sir," I said, swallowing my pride. "You don't have a choice. Life doesn't hand anything to people who wait." I repeated it in my mind as I cleaned tools, tightened engines, wiped sweat from my forehead. Life doesn't hand anything to people who wait. Life doesn't hand anything to people who wait. Sometimes I wanted to quit. Sometimes I wanted to call Lisa, scream, beg, anything. But I didn't. I let the anger simmer instead. Let the memory of her leaving sharpen my focus. "You're obsessed," Mark said one night when I told him I'd done another 14-hour shift. "Obsessed?" I said, laughing hollowly. "Maybe, but it's better than feeling like nothing." "Just don't burn yourself out," he warned. "I won't," I said. "I'm not going to be that powerless again. I'll make her see one day what she threw away, not for revenge. For proof. For me." The rain kept falling outside, but inside me something was changing. Every ache, every bruise from exhaustion, every sleepless night reminded me of the fire that had started the moment she walked away. And for the first time, I believed I could rise. "Look at this place," Mark said, stepping into my shop. "From a storage room to this." "Man, I'm impressed." I wiped my hands on a rag. "It's not much. Just 4 bays, some tools, and a lot of luck." "Luck?" He laughed. "Aaron, you're living proof that revenge is best served successful." I shrugged. "Maybe, but I don't even think about her anymore." Mark raised an eyebrow. "You keep saying that, but I've seen that look in your eyes. You still feel it?" "I feel nothing but work," I said quickly, hoping he'd believe me. Just then, the bell above the door jingled. I looked up and saw her. Not Lisa, not yet. A woman in a crisp suit carrying a folder, eyes scanning the shop with curiosity, respect, and maybe a little skepticism. Can I help you? I asked, stepping forward. Evelyn Chen, she said, extending her hand. I've heard about your work from a client of mine. They say you handle every project with honesty and care. I need someone like you to manage my logistics fleet. I blinked. Manage your fleet? Yes, she said calmly. It's a large operation. I want someone I can trust. I don't care about degrees or experience. I care about integrity. Mark elbowed me. You hearing this, man? Millions, Aaron. Millions, I swallowed hard. I can do that. I think you already are, she said with a small smile. When can you start? I glanced at Mark. He nodded. Tomorrow? I asked. Tomorrow works, Evelyn said. I'll have my assistant send the details. Mark leaned close as she walked away. See? Life has a way of giving you a second chance. And this is huge. I know, I said, but the words felt hollow. Something in me tightened. Later that night, I called Mark. Do you think she's different from the others? From Lisa? He asked. I hesitated. Yeah, she's calm. Not looking for anything except results. Not drama. Then maybe that's what you need. Someone real. Someone who won't leave because you don't have money. I smiled faintly. I hope you're right. Over the next weeks, the work consumed me. I visited warehouses, met drivers, coordinated shipments, handled delays, and negotiated contracts. Every challenge reminded me of the nights I spent cold and broke, and every victory tasted like fire and steel. One evening, Mark came by the office. You're glowing, he said, leaning against the doorframe. I'm exhausted, I said, rubbing my eyes. But satisfied. You're building more than a business. You're building yourself. And look at you, confident, calm, composed. You're finally untouchable. I laughed softly. Untouchable? I wouldn't go that far. Maybe not yet, Mark said. But you're close. You've come a long way from that park bench staring at the rain. I leaned back in my chair. I think about her sometimes. Lisa. Not the way I used to, just the thought of what she threw away. And maybe that fuels me more than I realize. Mark frowned. Don't let her shadow your victories, Aaron. You're better than that. I know, I said. But seeing her name pop up in a business meeting, invite my chest just stopped. I didn't expect it. You're human, Mark said. You can't erase every memory. But that doesn't mean you're weak. I thought I didn't care anymore, I admitted. You think you don't. But the past has a way of sneaking in, he said. The question is, what will you do when it shows up? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I already knew. I'd face it like I faced everything else, and with control, pride, and calm. Mark grinned. Well, at least you've got Evelyn. She seems solid. She is, I said quietly. And for the first time, I feel like maybe I deserve someone like her. Someone who doesn't want me for my wallet or my desperation. Someone who sees me, like really sees me. Mark nodded. Then don't screw it up. You've got a good thing going. I looked around my office, the organized chaos of papers, invoices, and tools, and felt a strange mixture of pride and unease. I'd built this, yes, but the old wound from Lisa, it lingered. Success tastes sweet, I realized. But it doesn't erase the scar that drives it. And deep down, I knew my life was about to get more complicated. The door opened, and I froze without even realizing it. Aaron? I turned slowly. There she was, Lisa. Not the woman I'd loved years ago, not the one who left me trembling in the rain. This Lisa looked smaller somehow, fragile in a way she never had before. Her sharp clothes couldn't hide the uncertainty in her eyes. Lisa, I said, calm, voice even. Her hand trembled on the folder she carried. I didn't expect to see you here, I shrugged. I attend meetings. Business doesn't wait for ghosts, she swallowed hard. Right business. Her eyes flicked around, avoiding mine for a moment, then snapping back. We're looking for investors. Derek's, my fiance's company, it collapsed. We need help. I nodded slowly, keeping my face neutral. I see. That's unfortunate. I wanted to talk to you after, she said quietly. Is that okay? I considered it. My instinct wanted to walk away, to pretend I hadn't noticed her. But part of me was curious. Fine, after the meeting. During the discussion, she kept glancing at me, biting her lip, shifting nervously. Every time our eyes met, I saw the old uncertainty she once tried to hide behind ambition and pride. She was searching for the boy she thought she abandoned, but he wasn't there anymore. Lisa, can I clarify something? One of the investors asked. Yes, of course, she said quickly. Her voice wavered for a fraction of a second before she regained composure. I watched her, noting the tension in her shoulders, the way her fingers gripped the edge of the table. She wanted to impress, to appear capable, but she had nothing left. Nothing but panic disguised as composure. After the meeting, we stepped into the hallway. Silence stretched between us. You look different, she said finally. Confident. I mean, you've changed. I've been busy, I said. Running a company isn't easy. But I suppose you already knew that, didn't you? Her lips trembled. I didn't know it would be like this. Leaving you, it was the biggest mistake I ever made. I studied her face, waiting for the familiar arrogance to show, waiting for the apologies I didn't want. But she looked scared, vulnerable. I missed you, she whispered. I let out a slow breath, trying to ignore the pull in my chest. Funny how life flips the script, I said, letting the words sink between us. You're not angry? She asked, voice barely audible. I was, I said, for years. But anger doesn't build anything. So I used it differently, she shook her head. I ruined everything. Not everything, I said carefully. Just the illusion you thought you had of me. I'm not the same person who waited on your doorstep in the rain. Her eyes filled, and for a moment I felt the old sting. But it was distant now, a memory. She realized too late what she lost, but I didn't need pity. I didn't need a regret. And Derek? I asked. Gone, she admitted. He left when the business failed. Everything collapsed, I smirked lightly. Life has a funny way of balancing scales, doesn't it? She bit her lip, swallowing. I wanted to say I'm sorry, truly, I nodded. Apology accepted. But don't mistake that for anything more. You can't erase the past. She looked down, letting the silence stretch, before finally whispering, I hope you're happy. I am, I said, voice steady. But not because you're crying or broken. I'm happy because I finally stopped needing your approval. Her lips quivered, and she turned, walking away. I watched her go, every step a reminder of what she had thrown away. Mark appeared behind me. Well, he asked quietly. She's changed, I said. Or at least humbled. But it doesn't matter. I'm not that boy anymore. Nope, he said, clapping my shoulder. You're the one who got the last laugh. I nodded, chest heavy with relief. Funny, isn't it? The tables really do turn. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Lisa. Aaron, can we talk? Just for 5 minutes? I stared at it. My thumb hovered over the screen. I didn't want to reply. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction. Don't do it, Mark said when I showed him. She doesn't miss you, bro. She misses stability. I know, I muttered. But she's everywhere. Every email, every call. I can't ignore it forever. You can ignore it, he said, exasperated. Trust me. She's testing you, not missing you, I sighed. I've ignored her for weeks, Mark. I don't know if I can keep it up. You can. You've come too far to fall for that again. Then came Evelyn, quietly knocking on my office door. Aaron? I looked up. Yeah? She stepped in, holding 2 mugs. I thought you might need this. I smiled faintly. Thanks, she sat across from me. You've been distant lately? Lisa? I frowned. How did you... I noticed patterns, she said softly. And I've been thinking. You haven't healed, Aaron. You've just covered your wound with success. I froze. Her words hit harder than any text or call. I thought I was fine, I admitted, voice low. You're fine in public, she said. But inside, the old hurt is still there. You need to face it, not hide behind what you've built. I never realized, I muttered. It's not about revenge. It's about me. About finally letting go, Evelyn nodded. Exactly. You can choose power or you can choose peace. Only one leads to real freedom. Later that week, Lisa called. I hesitated before answering. Aaron, she said, voice trembling. Can we have dinner? Just to talk. About the past. I exhaled slowly. Fine. 1 dinner. At the restaurant, she smiled nervously, twisting her napkin. I wanted to say I never stopped thinking about you. I studied her, calm. You loved my silence, not me. Her eyes filled with tears. I thought I needed someone who could support me, who was stable. I didn't realize stability wasn't everything. I leaned back, sipping my water. And now? Now, she hesitated. I just know I miss what we had. I miss you. I looked at her, feeling the pull, remembering old nights, old promises. But I didn't reach for her. I didn't soften. You think this will bring you back? I asked. She shook her head. No, I just needed to say it. To be honest, I nodded slowly. Honesty is appreciated, but it's not enough. Her hands trembled and she reached across the table. I still love you, Aaron. I smiled faintly, not cruelly. You loved my silence, my desperation. Not me. She looked down, ashamed. I was selfish. I know that now. I'm sorry for everything. I accept your apology, I said evenly. But this isn't about forgiveness. It's about recognizing the past and moving forward. She bit her lip, looking lost. And you have moved forward? Yes, I said, with someone who respects me for who I am, not what I can give. Evelyn's voice echoed in my mind. Choose peace. Lisa nodded slowly. I hope you're happy, truly. I am, I said, calm. And not because you're saying it now. I'm happy because I finally stopped needing your approval. I stopped letting the past define me. She looked up, searching for the boy she thought she could still reach. I shook my head. You can't rewrite history, Lisa. The person you left behind doesn't exist anymore. Her shoulders slumped. I understand. Good, I said. Now that's all we need from each other. Nothing more. She nodded, quietly gathering her things. Thank you for listening, she whispered. I watched her go, and for the first time, the old ache didn't flare up. Only a quiet sense of clarity remained. Mark called later. So? She's gone, I said. For real this time? And? I didn't fall, I said, voice steady. I chose peace over power. Finally, he said, a smile in his voice. That's the Aaron I've been waiting for. I poured myself a glass of water, staring out the window at the city lights. This is the life I earned. Not revenge, not a return to the past. Peace, and it felt like freedom. I was reviewing invoices when the receptionist whispered, Aaron, Lisa's here. I froze. When I looked up, she was standing at the doorway, mascara streaked, clothes rumpled, eyes wide with desperation. Aaron, please, she said, voice shaking. I need your help. I don't know who else to turn to. I stared at her. The woman who once left me thinking I was nothing now pleaded for mercy. Lisa, I said quietly, controlling the surge of old feelings. What happened? Her lower lip quivered. Derek, he ran off. Investor money, it's gone. The company's collapsing. I am alone. I leaned back, calm. I see. Please, Aaron, she begged, stepping closer. You have to help me. I don't know what to do. I was wrong. I held up a hand. Stop, her eyes filled with tears. Aaron, I need you. Please. You're the only one who understands. The old me would have gone to her, would have tried to comfort her, would have forgiven everything. But that me was gone. I pressed the button under my desk. Security. A minute later, 2 men appeared. Take her home, I said flatly. No, she screamed. Aaron, don't... I turned to her, calm, unwavering. No, I'm finally free. Her sobs echoed in the office as she was guided out. I didn't follow. I didn't even watch. I sat there, chest steady, heart quiet. The storm she brought years ago had passed. Later, Mark leaned against my office door, grinning. Well, that was satisfying, I shook my head. Not satisfying, peaceful, that's different. Right, he said, raising his eyebrows. Still, watching her crumble karma's poetic, man. I smiled faintly. Poetic doesn't touch it. Relief does. Speaking of relief, Mark said, you've got the award ceremony tonight. Big recognition for entrepreneurship. I nodded. I know. Evelyn said congratulations. She'll be there too. Hours later, I stood on the stage, shaking hands, smiling for cameras, receiving the plaque. Reporters snapped photos, journalists whispered my name, and everyone clapped. Congratulations, Aaron, Evelyn said quietly as she hugged me. Thank you, I said, feeling her warmth. For everything, Mark slapped my back. You did it, man. From park bench to this stage. You're unstoppable. I looked around the crowd, all the faces cheering, all the accolades surrounding me, and I realized I felt nothing extraordinary. Not sad, not triumphant. Just done, are you okay? Evelyn asked, noticing my pause. I nodded slowly. I think I finally understand. Revenge isn't satisfaction. Closure isn't sweet. Peace is what matters. She smiled softly. You've earned it, Aaron. more than anyone I know. I looked at Mark, then at Evelyn, then at the empty space where Lisa would have once meant something to me. My chest was light. My hands weren't shaking. My mind wasn't racing. I was free, Mark chuckled. You always said you wanted to prove her wrong. Look at you. Rich, respected, untouchable. You showed her. I didn't show her, I said quietly. I showed myself. That's the only audience that mattered. And the best part? Mark said, leaning closer. You didn't let bitterness ruin your life. I smiled, finally allowing a small, genuine grin. No, I let experience guide me. I let pain teach me, not control me. The cameras flashed again. I held the award, the stage lights warm against my face. But inside, there was calm, quiet, and unshakable clarity. Later, when the crowd thinned, I whispered to myself, I'm done chasing ghosts. Evelyn squeezed my hand. You're finally free, Aaron. Yes, I said, letting the words settle. And that's enough. Outside, the city lights gleamed. Somewhere, Lisa's story ended badly. Somewhere, Derek faced his own reckoning. I didn't care. I had no desire to watch or intervene. My life was mine, fully earned, fully lived, and fully peaceful. And for the first time in years, I smiled without a thought of the past, without a shadow of longing, without a hint of bitterness. I was done. The morning sun spilled across the city, warm and gentle. I adjusted my cufflinks and glanced at my reflection. Today wasn't about business, revenge, or proving anything. Today was about Evelyn. Ready? She asked softly, appearing in the doorway of the suite, her dress shimmering under the light. I am, I said, smiling, my nerves calm for the first time in years. She took my hand. Aaron, I'm so happy. Me too, I said, squeezing her hand. More than I ever imagined. We walked outside the hall together. Music floated softly from inside, the smell of flowers drifting on the breeze. Everything felt perfect, serene, like a life I had earned through struggle and patience. Then I saw her, Lisa, standing near the entrance, tears streaking her makeup, hands clasped tightly. She froze when our eyes met. I stopped, chest steady but mind sharp. She looked smaller than I remembered, vulnerable in the way she had never allowed herself to be before. Aaron, she whispered, voice trembling. I swallowed, calm, composed. Lisa, I said softly, I hope you're happy, she said, barely audible. I nodded, taking a breath. I am, but not because you're crying. I paused, letting the words settle, because I finally stopped needing your approval. Her lips quivered. She looked away, sobbing quietly, her shoulders shaking. She began, but no words could undo the years of pain she caused. No apology could erase the nights I spent shattered and alone. I shook my head gently. It's okay, go on. This isn't your stage anymore. She lingered a moment longer, eyes searching, then turned and walked away, tears glistening in the sunlight. I didn't follow. I didn't need to. My heart didn't ache. Mark appeared from the side, grinning. You handled that like a pro. Cold and free. Beautiful, I chuckled softly. Not cold, Mark, just finally free, Evelyn's voice called from the hall. Aaron? I turned and she smiled, radiant. Ready? I took her hand. Always. Inside, guests whispered greetings, laughter mingled with soft music, and I felt light. Not the heavy, anxious weight of the boy who lost everything. Not the anger-fueled fire that built my success. Just calm, contentment, and quiet joy. Look at you, Evelyn said, brushing a loose strand of hair behind my ear. You're glowing. Only because I'm walking into my future, I said, voice steady. With you, the ceremony began. Vows exchanged, promises made, rings slipped onto fingers. Every word felt real, earned, and permanent. Afterward, as we walked past the garden for photos, I caught sight of Lisa again. Gone now, replaced by the soft bustle of guests and celebration. And I realized I didn't care. Not a flicker of longing, not a single pang of regret. Mark raised his glass later, whispering, to finally winning in the right way. I nodded. Not winning, living, that's the difference. Evelyn leaned into me, her hand warm against mine. You've forgiven yourself, haven't you? Yes, I said, heart light. I forgive the past, the pain, everything. And that makes space for peace. She smiled, brushing her cheek against mine. Then we're free. Free, I echoed. The reception continued, laughter and music filling the air, but my mind kept returning to the doorway where Lisa had stood. She had been a ghost from a life I left behind, a reminder of heartbreak, betrayal, and lessons learned. But I no longer carried her weight. I carried only clarity and freedom. As I held Evelyn, watching friends and family celebrate, I whispered quietly to myself, I'm finally done chasing shadows. Mark clapped my back gently. That's the Aaron I knew you could be. Calm, composed, and untouchable. I smiled, eyes on Evelyn, and thought about all the years of struggle, nights of despair, and moments I thought I'd never rise. Now everything made sense. Forgiveness wasn't for her. It wasn't for anyone but me. And in that forgiveness, I found freedom, peace, and a heart finally at rest. For the first time in my life, I felt completely whole. The wedding had ended hours ago, laughter still echoing faintly in the hall. I sat alone at the balcony, the city lights stretching endlessly before me. My hand rested on a sheet of paper, pen poised, heart full yet calm. Are you writing in your head again? Evelyn's voice broke the quiet. She stepped beside me, holding my hand, her warmth grounding me. I think it's time, I said softly, eyes fixed on the paper. For what? To write. To say what I never could. To finally finish it. For me. She nodded, squeezing my hand. Go on, I'll listen. I took a deep breath and began. Lisa, I never meant for this letter to reach you, but I need to say it anyway. Thank you. Thank you for breaking me, for walking away, for showing me the sharp edge of betrayal. Evelyn stayed silent, watching me, her presence gentle and steady. You were my storm, I wrote, my hand moving freely now, but every storm clears the sky. You forced me to learn the price of self-respect, of patience, of fighting for myself when nobody else would. I paused, thinking of the nights I had spent cold, the sleepless hours in a storage room, the bitter ache in my chest. You made me feel powerless, I continued. But from that powerlessness, I grew stronger than I ever imagined. I built a life without you, but with lessons you couldn't have taught me otherwise. Evelyn brushed her fingers over mine. That's beautiful, she whispered. It's honest, and it's yours. You're free now, Aaron. I nodded faintly, letting the words settle. I am. And that's why this letter will never leave this page. I don't need her to read it. I don't need her to understand. It's mine, a marker of the man I've become. I folded the letter slowly, holding it in my hands, feeling the weight of every word. Are you ready? Evelyn asked, eyes on me, steady and calm. I met her gaze. Yes, I lit a match and held it to the paper. The edges curled, smoke rising in thin gray tendrils. I watched the flames consume the words, each line disappearing into ash. Sometimes, I said, voice low, the hardest part isn't writing the words. It's letting go of the need for them to matter to anyone else. Evelyn rested her head against my shoulder. And now? Now, I said, letting the letter crumble between my fingers. I can finally breathe. Not with anger. Not with longing. Just peace. The ashes scattered in the wind, drifting away like a memory finally released. I never thought I'd see you like this, she whispered. Calm, light, whole. I'm finally done, I said. Done chasing ghosts. Done waiting for validation. Done letting the past define me, she smiled faintly. And the future? The future, I said, glancing at her, is this. Us. A life built on respect, trust, and love that doesn't require proof. No shadows, no lingering pain. Just growth. Evelyn leaned into me, her hand warm against mine. I'm proud of you. I should be thanking her, I said quietly, nodding toward the darkened horizon. Even Lisa, in her way, forced me to become this man. The man I needed to be before I could truly be happy. Then this, Evelyn said softly, is closure. Not for her, but for you. And that's enough. I looked at her, taking in the calm certainty in her eyes. My heart felt light, unburdened. Every choice, every struggle, every heartbreak had led me here. And the letter? She asked, glancing at the ash in the wind. I burned it, I said, smiling faintly. Sometimes the worst goodbye becomes the best beginning. Evelyn kissed my cheek gently. And now it's time for the life you deserve. I exhaled slowly, the night air filling my lungs. The city shimmered below, alive and indifferent, yet perfect for this moment of clarity. "I'm ready," I said, voice steady. "Ready to leave the past behind and live fully. With you," her hand squeezed mine, "always." And for the first time, I truly believed it. The storm had passed, the ash was scattered, and the sky was finally clear.